Hello, hello. Yes.
Hello! Woo! Dun dun dun! It's me, Robyn Carpenter Briscoe, your favorite spiritual life coach and author of Let's Get Stoned, using stones and crystals to create a life that rocks. Welcome to another Illimitable living session. Yay! And we are here today with a guest. I told you there'd be a guest. I've been saying all week how excited I am to have this guest here. It is my friend Uzo Omenihu, and I wanted to introduce you to this fantastic human being if you do not know her already. So hey, say hi, Uzo.
Hello, hi. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you are here.
Me
So
too.
I was probably supposed to read some sort of bio about you, but I never thought of any of that.
Bio, who needs it?
Yeah, whatever, look her up. She's important. Just do
I'm
it.
a living being, so that's my bio.
So, but we'll get to all the things that she is. But first, I really want to have this discussion with you because we've known each other now a few years, and we have each had these great kind of arcs of experiences. And one of the things that I admire about you, besides the fact that we share the same birthday,
There's that. I mean,
is
come
that is because we already know how important that is. Besides that, what I admire is that you have this continuous ability to always be yourself, regardless of what's going on,
thank you.
right? And what I say about that is that that's when you're living a life where you are spiritually empowered. That is what it looks like. And I define spiritual empowerment as the freedom to live your life as your authentic self without fear or apology. And I think that that's exactly what I see in you as you are going through life, living your life as you're you.
Thank you.
So, what do you think about that? Talk to me about what that sounds like for you.
Thank you. I feel so. I feel seen, and I feel seen with that description. I think that's how I feel. So it's great that it's the way it looks like on the outside. It's the way it's received. That's the way I try to live my life based on the guide that I receive from my spirits, and to move in a way that with integrity, even when I'm messing up, to still move from a place of integrity. So it's really important for me to move that way in everything that I do, even if it's work, even if it's relationships with my friends or a romantic partner or my family, is to move from a place of integrity. So thank you. I'm grateful that that's what it translates, that my life translates and it looks that way. So,
That
but thank
thing,
you.
it means you are actually being this, you are living as your authentic self,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it sounds like, I'm saying it looks like that, and you're like, feels like that, so it must be that.
It must be that, yes.
So I'm glad that you said what you said. I'm glad that you received that is the way I meant it. And I'm glad that you said what you said, because the whole point of this series is that my company is called Illimitable You. I'm always talking to people about the word illimitable, and that they are illimitable, meaning there are no limits to their life. There's not even a possibility. It's not even a possibility to limit. It's so I one of the things that I really want people to understand is because I wrote a book about stones and crystals, they always think I want to talk about stones. And I spend a lot of time talking about them. What I want them to get, though, is that there are all kinds of things that make up and living that life. And so when you said, you're doing the things and you're taking advice from your guides, internal, external, however you're getting that guidance. So can you talk some more about like what you do, like what that means, how you tap in that way? Ooh,
How I tap in? How
uh-huh.
I tap in?
Did I just say that? What?
But yes, for me, I meditate. I do my best to have a regular meditation practice. It doesn't always work out that way, but initially it was a lot more. I did it more frequently, more consistently. But it's something that I always return to be able to tap in, to be able to. And for me, meditation is really about going into a place where all the noise, all the came from all the conditioning of living as a human being on this planet, right?
Yeah.
So when I can silence those voices, the external voices, and the things I'm supposed to be, the things I'm supposed to do, the places I'm supposed, like all the different things, then I can actually hear the real me that's inside that is rooting for me 100% of the
Yeah.
time. That's always there. That will. Yeah. So meditation is a big one. I read a lot. I write. I spend time by myself so that I can. And also, I'm very conscious about the energy and things that I digest, whether it's information, whether it's spaces, whether it's content on social media and things like that. I'm very cautious about the things that go inside because I want to be as clean of a vessel as I can be so that I can hear the guidance, which relieves me of all the extra anxiety and the
Yeah.
problems of the world and the complaining and the stress. And it doesn't matter how much money is in my bank account.
Right.
My goal is to maintain who I am because I know all my needs are always met. So, yeah.
Yes. What she said. So, but seriously, this is exactly the point, right? This is exactly why we do this. This is exactly why I'm doing this because and it's the reason why I titled my book the way I did, using stones and crystals to create a life that rocks, because it's two things. It's action. You have to use the stones and crystals and you have to be in creation mode, right? And
Right.
and then also you are the one that has to be taking the action. Like the point isn't I just am. So like yes, meditation, and also you have to consciously make the decision to do it. Consciously give yourself permission to take the time to do it. I mean, people are always telling me, "Oh, I can't meditate, I have too much, I think too much." And all I can ever think to them is, "You couldn't possibly think more than a Gemini, like ever."
Oh my God.
That's not even
It's not even possible.
it's not possible. So if any Gemini says I meditate, then I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Like if we can if we can get to the point where like literally it's quiet,
Yeah.
then everyone can do it.
Right.
And they need to understand that it's not like I sit there and nothing ever comes into my brain. It's
Right.
that I keep letting it go by and stay with
Without
what the
judgment.
point is. It's funny. I always liken meditation to focusing without focusing,
Hmm.
because you have to consciously continue to remain present.
Hmm. It's
And
a choice. You have to choose each and every time, and it gets easier to choose to disengage from the thought. but
Yeah.
it's hard. But it takes practice. We're so conditioned to like want things immediately and want
Yeah.
the instant gratification. But sitting down, anything that you get good at, you have to learn how to do.
Yes.
Unless you tap in to the source that can show you how to do everything. But
Yes.
because going to school, you're being taught how to remember things,
Yeah.
not really how to do anything, you know. So,
Yes.
but even with that, if you can function from that state of mind of being conditioned and still get things produced, can you imagine what you can accomplish when you actually tap into the source that can show you how to do things,
Yes.
and make it effortless and
Yeah.
sort of just like remove all blockages in your life, and you know what I mean. It's about shifting your. It's about you have to commit and you have to focus, and but it's a choice every step of the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and you have to decide you're worth it. Right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty much where it starts. Well, first it starts with gratitude. I think all things start with gratitude, like
Well,
period. And
everything with gratitude.
all
That's
things,
yeah.
there's nothing that doesn't start with gratitude. But once we're grateful that we're getting this opportunity, right? Then you have to truly believe you're worth it. You have to truly believe I am worthy of giving myself this time,
Mhm.
making this choice for self, making this choice to live this freedom of my authentic self without the judgment. And the deal is the spiritual empowerment, remember, is the freedom to live as your authentic self without fear or apology.
Mhm.
So, first, and the freedom to live as your authentic self is technically like the last step, because first you have to understand who your authentic self is. Then you have to stop being afraid to be that authentic self. And then you have to stop apologizing to other people for you being that authentic person that you are. And I feel like part of the reason that my understanding came the way it did has to do with the coming out journey, right? Like I felt like it's like just when you come out first, you have to come out to self, right? Then you come out to others, then you stop being afraid to just be yourself.
Mhm.
And then and then eventually you have to stop apologizing, like you have to stop. Well, I'm sorry, no, sorry, I'm not into that, no, or sorry, no, I don't date boys, or sorry, you apologize a lot for other people's misunderstanding of who you are. And it's like that's you know so I know that, at least for me, that my understanding of that journey that everyone has to take. Spiritual empowerment is something that everyone has to do. And I feel that my understanding of it came to me as I had a better understanding of my coming out journey and how, I'm the lesbian socialite, right? And I do that all the time. I am that, right? So when I say, oh yeah, I do this, and oh, and I have this, I've had people have these like reactions where they're like, oh, how brave. Because I said I'm the lesbian socialite. And then they're like, you're so brave and courageous. And like I had this one woman like in tears because she couldn't believe that I had not only started this thing, that I was the lesbian socialite. Like I was saying it out loud in front of people like all the time, like to her face. And I was like, this is the easiest thing I've actually ever done. Being this was really this is just who I am. And someone asked me to write about it. So that was like an easy one. And the best part is I don't have to pretend to be anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's a gift that we give to ourselves. We have to give it to ourselves to live as our authentic self. And we have to understand who that is. And
Yeah.
we don't necessarily always know who that is.
I mean,
We
Yeah.
do.
When you don't, sorry.
We just start believing a bunch of lies. It's like there's all of this. We always knew who we were, then all of a sudden we start believing all these lies, and then we don't think we know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, from birth, you're everything that we've been told that there's something wrong, or we've been
Right.
shown how to be, and a lot of people just assimilate, and you live till you die, and all these different structures came about, and all these things. So we have been conditioned out of ourselves, out of
Yeah.
our own, out
Yeah.
of even knowing, because when you come in as a baby, you're not aware of this world, because you're just like, take me back to wherever I came from.
Yeah, right. What is this? It's cold. I'm hungry. Where's the thing?
What's happening? And yeah, and I think I sometimes I wonder if the purpose is the remembrance, if
Yeah.
the goal of life, if the gift of life is the process of remembering who we
Yeah.
are, because we always wonder, what is it for? What am I here for?
Right.
I wonder if if it is the process that is the gift, which is because when you remember who you are, you can never forget it. You will never
No.
know what you learn, and
Yes.
that's it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes. Well, and it's true. And the sooner that you know it, the sooner you can start living as that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And
but what I learned too is like it's not for everybody. I feel like there are people who live a happy life who are not interested
aware.
in really being connecting to that spirit, and they're living a good life, or they are already living as spirit, but it looks different from what we're used to. And
Right.
these and I have friends who they've been living an easeful life, and maybe that is their purpose. As long as you're at peace and life is moving for you, and you don't have to become a spiritual leader. You don't have to
Right.
become a spiritual snob, quote, or whatever it is.
Right.
Or so I feel like there's so many different ways to show what spirituality is,
Yes.
things like that. But I think that it's such a beautiful thing to remember who you are. But I think also it is a great thing if you're doing life and it's easeful and it feels good, then
Yes.
keep going, because sometimes when you start looking for something,
Right. It will find you. You will be like, oh, wait, I didn't even know that was there. What is that? What is
exactly, because you will lose friends. You will lose a
Yes.
lot of people because of the fact that you're becoming a whole different person. You know,
Well,
you know what I mean?
they
So
feel that, right? It's really funny. So I, at one point in my life, stopped drinking, right? And because I had gone well beyond being a social drinker to like drinking being the point, right? And I was like, okay.
right. Just a side note, I had spoke to a friend last year, and I was like, it never occurred to me I could just not drink, because I
Yeah.
was in the restaurant industry for so long. It's just something we did, but it just never occurred to me that you could just not do that. But it became the thing that you just do,
Right.
But yes, go ahead.
So I was hanging out with some people that I hadn't hung out with in a while, and I wasn't drinking. And this person, very drunk person, came up to me and said, I don't know, I liked you better when you drank. And I said, it's funny, I liked you better when I drank.
I like how you're like, I wasn't chuckling. That
And
was
and the deal is that what I said completely missed her, right? Because she was drunk. So she was like, yeah. And I was like, right. So, and she just kind of went back on her drunk way, right? And it was funny because people feel a way about themselves, or well, and then it projects onto you, right? They feel a way about you because it's really projecting what they're feeling about themselves. There's this like vicious cycle going on where they suddenly are feeling a way because you're making them be aware of things that they don't want to be aware of. Like the point is to not be aware of that. And there you are doing that thing. I mean, that's what people pay me for. Literally, people pay me, to be a client, to be my client. They are literally paying me to lovingly point out the things that they already know are there and are simply not wanting to pay attention to.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
well, there's such a, because cognitive dissonance is such a real thing.
Yeah.
And there's like your brain can play tricks on you. Your brain can convince you that you're living the best life ever, when in reality, you're really not. And I really believe that it's, that person, yes, it's like we have to learn about projection. We have to understand, by understanding yourself, you get to understand that everything that comes out of your mouth that you're saying to someone else, it's
Yes.
really about you. And
Yes.
it's like it's all about you. There's not, you know what I mean? Even the good things,
Yes.
even like it's all a reflection where we project everything that comes out of us is a projection of our interpretation of like, of our stuff, of whatever it is and wherever we are. So like them coming up to you and not even being aware, they could have been sober and you could have said the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
Not even be able to like understand that what you're saying right now is about you.
Right.
It has nothing to do with
It's
me.
not actually about me at all.
Yeah, it's so
Well,
interesting.
and you said something that made me it. The thing about cognitive dissonance is that it's because you're choosing not to be aware. Like it's like well, you choose it and then you believe it.
Unconsciously,
Yes, yes.
because
Yeah, you're like, I had no
you're not
idea.
conscious.
Well, I remember it because it's real what you're saying, because it's making me think about the times that I was living in New York when I was working in fashion and being very fabulous, and I was living this life that I was like, it was the best life ever,
I
right?
mean, New York has a way of being fabulous. It just does it
And
so effortlessly, you know.
well, and I worked in fashion PR, and I did, like, so, like, of course my life was
Of
fabulous.
course, yeah.
And after I after I left and unpacked my life from that time, right, and who I was, I call it the time of my shiny veneer.
Mm-hmm. Your performance.
Right, because
Yeah.
nothing was ever wrong. There could never be anything wrong. Like, you do a thing, you carry weird things in your bag so that you can go in the bathroom and fix shit that if like something went wrong, so I always have a thing that's inside of another thing that can turn into something else.
Yeah, you were always ready to form into and shape and mold yourself into
Yes,
whatever was what is it, fashionable?
right. And people could never know that something was wrong. Like, the whole point is that no one could ever know that something was wrong.
That's
And
beautiful. Yeah.
it's that working on set and you do all that stuff to the back of a shirt and all blah blah to make it look all good, like, like, yeah, yes, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's so, but that's real, right? Like, that's exactly what you're doing. Like, you're
Mhm.
just gathering all of this stuff that in
Yeah.
your mind, in your psyche, in your beingness of, I call it that Pandora's box theory of dealing with your stuff. You
Mhm.
just stick it in that box, you stick it in that car. We're not paying attention to that. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
And then that shit blows up on you. The thing pops, the safety pin pops out the side and stabs you in your back.
I think,
Because
yeah, I think the cognitive dissonance part comes in when you're surprised.
I was, because my sister said to me, I hated when you were living in New York because you were so unhappy. And I was like, really?
Was
What are you talking about? And it's true. I was filled with anxiety. Like, I had I had a lot of anxiety that I was completely not recognized as such. Like, there were a couple of times when I literally had an anxiety attack standing on the subway. I remember it because we were in a tube and we were with all of these people standing around me, and it was like, 8:30 in the morning, and we weren't moving and I couldn't do anything. And literally I was standing there crying.
wow.
And this guy was like, noticed it. And he was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm having a panic attack, and I can't really actually do anything about it. So I'm just standing in the little tiny space that is allowed to me at this moment and filled with panic. And he literally moved people for me.
Wow.
And said, she needs air. You need to get back up. And it was exactly what I needed, right? Like I like it went
No,
away
just thinking about it, yeah,
because he saw me, right? And you know what New York is like. Like people, you spend all your time not looking at people, right? Like you're just trying to get to the place and do the thing.
yeah, and then
So
go back to your place so you can come back and do the thing all over.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So and there's so many people, and there's so much just talking about learning how to meditate, right? Like there's so much going on no matter where you are at whatever time you are, even in your middle of Central Park, to find quiet and stillness is still a thing, right? So the fact that he saw me at all and was looking to just do his part to alleviate something for a complete stranger
yeah,
was this wonderful gift, and it completely took me out of it. Like because those kinds of things are a spiral, right? So the minute he did that, it just like gave me exactly what I needed, and it was like, okay, get yourself together, you're okay, everything's fine. Like I could do all the things and take the breath and get myself back centered and be okay. And it was this wonderful experience that also was one of those, wake up kind of things. I think that was probably about 2 years. And then I had moved out of New York right after that. Like I did the thing, and that because I could never have imagined at one point ever leaving New York after I moved there, because I thought it moved at my rhythm. I thought it was like, oh yeah, and
yeah,
I was running to keep up. Like that wasn't what was happening. I
yeah.
was like running from here to there, being like crazy, running to keep up. So I was so not seeing
Mm-hmm.
myself in the mirror, right? I was seeing the reflection of things, but I was not seeing myself. So it was like, oh,
Yeah,
so
you couldn't. Yeah, you couldn't, because if your consciousness is like committed to this thing, which is a narrative of like New York is this fashion life, this work, I'm fabulous, I'm living my best life,
right,
but not really.
right,
And when you're doing that, I think that it's just like, I feel like that moment when you had the connection with the stranger, it's sort of like it helped you remember for a split second that everything was okay, that
yeah,
all was well. Like
yeah,
you're good, you can come out of this. You know what I mean? So it's like I think we crave those moments, and anyone that gets a taste of it wants more of it.
yeah,
I think that that's the path of spirituality. That's what leads you down
yes,
to connect to your spirit, because spirituality is really about remembering that we are spiritual beings. That's
yes,
really all it is. And when you're completely wherever energy goes, energy follows. So if you're
yes,
committed to like this one narrative of the New York life, because I was in the hustle too. It's like a rhythm. There's a heartbeat. Everything
yes,
moves. We're all in this together, but
yes.
we're really not, because we're all,
No,
you know what I mean. Everyone's
we're all
hustling.
like,
We're hustling to get to where are you going?
right.
Everything New York is just a hustle.
Yeah,
Period. It
we're
was.
always going somewhere. You're always. I remember so distinctly living like I worked off of. I worked in Hell's Kitchen. I worked right off of 43rd between 8th and 9th Avenue,
I used to work
and
at the bar on 49th and 45th and 9th, I think it was.
yeah. See, so you know exactly. So you're just going right, like literally. It. This will tell you how much you're just. I was just going. I was walking by. Do you remember when Puffy's bodyguard shot somebody at the nightclub in New York? Something. It was like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
But it was a long time ago. I was living in New York, and what happened was I walked past that literally right after it happened. Like,
Wow.
the police were showing, because it was at one of those ridiculous hours that is practically day dawn, and it's happening, and it's like, and I was going to work, and I was leaving the subway, and I was heading to the club. I worked at a health club, and I was heading there and not paying attention to anything that was going on there because I was actually in training for a marathon. So
Oh,
I was only thinking about the motion, and I had my little outfit on, and I was like doing the thing. And meanwhile, all this stuff was going on, except meanwhile, there's always stuff going on, right? So I can't really be paying attention, or I would never get anywhere or do anything. And I remember so distinctly, I would be irritated when people would be like looking up at the buildings and stopping and smelling flowers and shit, because I'd be like, get out of my way. Don't you think I can afford to go?
why are you smelling the flower? It's way too much.
Yes. Move. Don't you see? I have someplace to be. Now I'm like, but I'm so not that. I actually, and what's so funny is I actually wasn't that.
Okay.
I was actually the other person. I'm the one that the moon. Oh my God. I saw an eagle flying by yesterday when I was working on one of the little spots for this. I was working on a spot, and I looked up, and literally an eagle flew by, and I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, it
Take
is.
that moment and you say, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
You notice so much more. You I learned recently, like plants are not aware of their existence unless you acknowledge them. So like they need your consciousness to like connect to theirs so that they're able to continue thriving. I mean, they're going to live, but they're not aware of their beauty or like their existence unless they connect to another. So with that said, through spirituality or even through doing any kind of work and returning home to yourself, you start to see what's actually valuable, like on this planet. You actually get to become a part of like the flow of nature, and you make contact, and your consciousness is able to like identify moments of life. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Because you're tapping in.
I mean, I'm just saying, because you're tapping in.
Talk to me. We got to talk about this. So talk to me about this. Tell me, because you've had a long journey in a short amount of time from the last time we spoke.
Yes.
We spoke, it was like, I would say about 8 or 9 months ago. And
that long ago?
Yeah, I think it was like April, maybe May. I don't remember. See,
was it 2019?
No, it was last year. It was last year because it was me, you, and BD sat down and talked about, but we're not talking about
We're here right now.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it was probably like April or May of last year, but 2020 didn't exist as a year consciously.
It was a month and 10 years at the same time. It was like a month and 10 years. How is that possible?
Well, time is relative, and it completely folds in on itself anyway. So it makes sense. At the same time, it does have a challenge when you're trying to remember things. However, there's been you, I believe, had just moved into the space that you're in.
No, I just moved again.
Okay. So there it is. That gives you
the physical tracking of what my life has been, actually. Yes.
So now talk to me about this, because when we last spoke, you didn't actually know what was next. You were very, I don't want to use the word excited, because that's not the way that anticipatory. Like you were like, okay, I'm here, and this is not what I was expecting. And also, let's see what's gonna happen. Like what do you think's gonna happen? Like it wasn't like, oh, my life, it's not what I thought it was gonna. It's like it's like, what do you suppose? And so what has happened is you definitely were tapping in. I'm telling you, this is completely a side note. Prior to us getting on camera, we were doing all the lighting things, and this thing that's on her chest, it's bright, right? Like generally they say don't wear white on camera because it's too white, blah, 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 blah. But this, I don't feel that reflection is actually the white. I absolutely think it is a reflection of what's going on with your light.
Thank you. I accept. I receive. I thank you for the reflection. Thank you very much. So since the last time we spoke, yes, I think excitement was definitely in my. I think it was in a mixture of nervousness and excitement because I was transitioning out of a life that was already that I'd spent 10 years building, and transitioning out of that into. And then since then, I have lived a lot of life, and I've given myself permission to evolve.
Yes.
As then I was still thinking I knew things,
Yes.
and that was going to be enough. And what I knew, but what ended up happening was when you get on this path, is that it doesn't stop. You don't stop evolving. So many things keep coming up, and I got to face between, I think it was October to like this, for like 2 months or a month and a half. I was like, I got to face my shadow side. My shadow side out,
Mm.
and like I got to witness her because of the fact that when you start the process, it's all like, you meditate, you cry, all the pain
Yes.
comes out of you, right? And then you find peace, and then
Yes.
you feel really great, and then you remember, and while you're in this peaceful state, right? And then you keep learning, and I'm like, yes, I found my calling, my purpose. I'm going to teach this. I'm going to find out how I can share this so that other people can have this experience too.
Yes.
Come with me. Let's go,
Yeah.
everybody. We're gonna get free. And then it's like, oh, y'all don't want to come. You don't.
Right.
Y'all, oh, you ain't ready. You don't. Oh, you're not feeling what I'm feeling. Oh, we're two different people. Oh, shit. Okay, let me just, come back here and revisit what it is that I'm doing, and but also going through the shadow, like really seeing. Okay, so the more work you do, the more you are able to become the observer in
Yes.
your life. So you see more of yourself, how you act, how you show up in places. So I was able to see myself, witness my shadow side, make decisions that undid the work that I'd done
Yes.
up until then. So, and after going through that and making it through, actually witnessing how I've had my hand in creating resistance in my life, I
Yes.
I was able to come out of that to say, oh wow, okay. I feel I'm so much more stronger, more solid
Yes.
than I've ever
Yes.
been before. I feel so much more clear, yet having gone through that and so made it through that. And so like my biggest fears came true, but I'm still here. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
want more. So I am still evolving. I'm still creating, and but I trust that everything that I put out has to come from within. It has to be something that adds value to myself, to my life, and to others. If
Yes.
anyone, whomever comes in contact, like I'm not out here trying to take everybody with me. It's a matter of I'm giving myself permission to create whatever it comes out. I hope that it adds value. So that's where I'm at now.
I love that. So
Thank you.
how did this happen?
So the T-shirt, I was so I created new narratives. New narratives is came out of when the initial stage of my process, which is I realized I learned what helped me through that was having support, because there are
Yeah.
different levels of support, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a community support. I had friends. I had people around, and I was taken care of. I was nurtured if I needed. Like I had community, and so creating the understanding that having a therapist, having a life coach, having friends, having people in spaces that you can share and kind of like have people hold space for you, is so important. So that's where new narratives came about, because I had to also do physical exercises. I had to stretch. I had to make sure I was moving. I had liquids and doing different things, getting massages, doing all those things to take care of myself, my physical aspect, who had been through a lot and wasn't
Right.
being taken care of. So
Yes.
going through that and understanding that I was feeling better because of all these different things in place, I created new narratives to kind of have a multidisciplinary space where you can find different kinds of support of help, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a life coach, whether it's a yoga instructor that you can do movements and things like that,
Right.
even a Reiki healer and things like that. So I created that, and it's a resource center, which I'm going to also add more people to, who are within this, who work on the spirituality or who are doing things to better our lives. And then from there, after that, I created a deck of cards, which has like affirmations and questions that can help people sort of like go within to understand. Because the more we understand who we are, the better we can be for our communities.
Right.
And so from there, and also after having a community, the thing that happens with community sometimes, what I learned is that there are still bylaws that you have to live by and show up as. There are still rules and laws, and there is when you come out of that, like at the end of the day, whether you have community or not, you still the deepest work you can ever do is the one that you do with yourself.
Yeah.
So that even if community is not there, you're able to still move forward. You can,
Yes.
you know what I mean? You can still continue forward.
Yes.
Because yeah, so it's all different phases. So that's where tapping in came from, which is because you, at the end of the day, when everybody goes home and you're with yourself, you are with yourself.
Yes. Yes. Well, yes, because you're technically, you are the only person that has been with you your entire life. Like, you're the only one that has literally lived all of it. And you're the only one that keeps choosing to keep going. Like, it doesn't matter how much someone loves you, and no matter how much support you have. And I have been loved and supported immeasurably throughout my life. At the end of the day, I'm still the one. I'm still the one that has to choose. And I love that you keep talking about remembrance, as opposed to connection. The thing that I always explain to people is it's really about divine remembrance versus divine connection, because the divine connection suggests that you were ever disconnected, and you've never been disconnected. You just had to remember that the connection was there. And so
because the separation is a part of the illusion.
The illusion, right? It's like, oh yeah, no, it's the footsteps, there were two, and then there was one at the hardest time, and it's like, what the hell? Why were you there? It was like, no, dude, I was carrying you. What'd you think? It's like, where were you? I never went anywhere. You weren't alone. How do you think you got through that?
You can't even walk by yourself.
Okay. What are you talking about?
How can we breathe? Like, how is it that we're able to sustain the physical body? Like, it doesn't make sense any other way,
Right. You have to be connected to something that you have to be plugged into something that is separate, that is not separate from you. Like, it is, I always say that when I know that I'm in meditation and I'm really there, is when I come out of it, like, my face is still a little numb, because it's kind of like the re-entry didn't quite take, and I'm like, but I want to go back, like,
it's a great place. It's such a sweet spot. The Gap, it's such a beautiful place.
Yes, and people can see it's all over your face, when people say, oh, you don't look your blah 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 age, and I go, yeah, that's because I live a life of joy.
Yeah.
And they think it means I'm saying something. They're not really understanding the depth of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Happiness
unless you go through it, unless you experience it, you cannot teach it. Like, so that's been like one of my challenges, I think, or experiential things I have to process through, is like how to really do this work, or how to present it, because you can't do it for anybody. You cannot, regardless of how, like, you could find the perfect words to say. It doesn't matter until someone's ready, and until they have felt it. There's nothing you can do to try to explain it, because it's the most indescribable experience. There are no words big enough to sort of to explain what it is. Yeah.
That's exactly it. There are no words big enough because there are plenty of words, and I'm full of lots of them. And
As a Gemini, I believe you are. So am I.
at the same time,
Yeah.
it's a feeling thing,
Yeah.
right? It's like it's a feeling thing, and that's why the tapping in is so poignant, right? Because you're like, no, dude, it's kind of like that word sankofa, right? Where it's like you're reaching back to keep moving. Like you have to understand what your history is, where your ancestors, all the behind you that's pushing you forward and going forward with it, right? So it's like you got to tap into your here, like here, where I always tell people joy is this blissful, beautiful center within you that is always there,
Always.
regardless of what you're seeing around you.
Yeah. I mean,
And
what
it's
you're seeing around you dictates if you're activated or not.
right.
If you're tapped into it or not tapped in. You know?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's true, your life looks differently. It's and your experiences are different, right? So when you're there, it's just like when you put four people on a corner and then something happens in the middle of the street and then you ask everybody what happened and then you're going to get all these different stories, right? Because it's relative to your perspective. And if your perspective is based on joy, love, abundance, and gratitude, then that's literally what you're going to see. You're going to literally see, because my story about me having the panic attack on the train could have been a completely different story. There I was, and nobody would move, and everybody was touching me, and the whole story could have been a completely different story if I hadn't been focusing on the gift that guy was for me, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I love that you are now having this experience of like this expression in a way that because you're a creative. You can't not create. I know it's a double negative, but we know what that means.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
It just artists. It's like artists, and then they find, 300 canvases that no one ever knew existed because they died and he never told. It's like, yeah, but they couldn't stop creating. Just because you didn't know that they had done it didn't mean that it didn't exist, right? So you always have to be, just as you say, evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that it's evolved in this way because, again, you are always looking for community. It's like, if I'm doing this, how is it going to help others? If I'm doing this, clearly this experience is something others need to have. I want other people to feel like I'm feeling.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole point. I think that once I started feeling I literally could have gone, I floated everywhere. I was just like, oh my God, it's so amazing to feel this good without anything, without substances, without other people, but just to be able to have access and to see my brothers and sisters, my family members, and everyone like not be tapped into that stresses me out. To stress me out. Well, I allowed it to stress me out because I am an empath, but at the same time, I understand the responsibility that comes with that. It's not just about I'm not available to just pick up anyone's emotions anymore. But I do understand that the work itself and being creative, I'm able to tap into that source. It's just a matter of how do I present it. That where it's that's why also the What is Love podcast was created. Why I created the What is Love podcast is because I wanted to use love to channel the work. I wanted to do it through love. I wanted to, because I feel like love is sort of everything. And if we're able to have real conversations about how we show up in different dynamics, whether it's an intimate relationship, that will expose how we actually treat ourselves. Because I know that's been my biggest teacher, has been my intimate relationships and how I've shown up in them, and my friendships and all the different dynamics. So getting to a place of deciding to choose love to channel this work has been the easiest information I've gotten. So I'm just now building that out. So
Well, it's so beautiful though. But and I love that that's what I love that you chose love. One of my favorite lessons was that all things are one thing. So anyone that's saying anything to you or anything that you're experiencing from someone else is one of two things. It's either love or a call for love. And
exactly.
our responsibility is the same thing. It's we're then to love. Like our responsibility is to love. Either they're sending love to us and we are sending love back to them, or they're calling for love and we're sending love back to them. So our responsibility in the equation is always the same. It is always to love.
Mm-hmm.
And someone is either giving it to us or they're asking for it. And I it's it, gratitude, love.
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation. I'm sorry.
I said it's just the center of all things.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with a friend, and it was like we sort of like landed in a place of when you're going through something, the call to action is love.
Yeah.
Is just to love yourself a bit more, even when you're upset. Love. You have to like love. It's tapping in. That's where the gratitude comes in of like being aware of what's actually real and what
Yeah.
is not. But like love yourself more. The call to action when you're going through is like, okay, how can I show myself a little bit more love today? How can I show that person a little bit more love? It kind of like softens the
Yes.
moment, you know? Yeah.
This has been so good,
Thank you.
so delicious and wonderful. And I'm certain that we'll do it again on another day because we'll have to. Because you'll do something, you'll say something, you'll inspire me in some way, and it'll be time for us to sit down together again.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank
in the meantime, what I want you to do is tell everyone how to find you. Give us all the stuff.
all of it. All of it. Okay, so on Instagram, it's UZOOMENIHU. There's also New Narratives, which is my page, one of my pages, NEU Narratives. And the What is Love podcast is on YouTube. Whatislovepodcast.com. You can get these shirts. I have hoodies and sweaters also. Subscribe on What is Love podcast on YouTube, and stay tuned for the evolution. There's so much more coming. Who knows? We shall see, shan't we?
I know. Yay! This has been so good. I'm so grateful.
Thank
I'm
you.
grateful for you guys joining us. Whether you joined us live or you're joining us on the replay, watching this at another time, I know that you were inspired because I certainly was. And I just invite you to subscribe to What is Love podcast, subscribe to this channel, so follow Uzo anywhere you can find her, because I promise you will always find goodness when you get there.
Thank you.
Be well, and I will see you guys next week. In the meantime, remember, you are illimitable. So go out and create a life that rocks. See you later.